For 7 years now, I've lived in New York without a room to call my studio. Without one of those artist studios full of tools and builds on display for summoning inspiration. I've always thought, one day I'll have enough space for all my equipment. One day I'll be able to call a dedicated room my studio. Well, I realized that I don't want to wait for that one day anymore. I don't want to keep pushing that dream further away because I'm already living another dream here in Brooklyn. I can have both. An apartment my wife and I love and a studio I've always wanted. The current studio is a desk in the corner of our apartment. Hardly a solitary room in which to toil away. But I've been editing, shooting, building, and writing here for 3 years. Everything happens at this desk. It's not even just my desk, we share this thing, but I've been able to make it my own when I need it. I've built a modular studio, deployable when it's time to create. Overhead rig with flip-down monitor, bolts to these shelves and stores neatly in the closet. Battery charge bank, part of the permanent display. This was the first organizational build. Door-mounted tripod storage, the newest addition to the studio. Camera arsenal. Cameras are deemed worthy of permanent display. Lens arsenal. Too many lenses to display. We'll keep those in the closet. Studio lights, mostly used for top-downs. Backpack hook, more important than you'd think. It keeps the floor clear. Paper goods. Printer paper, construction paper, engineering paper. Hardware storage, self-explanatory. Milk crates, top ones for tools and larger hardware, bottom ones for small usable wood scrap. Typewriter lives on top and slides along these rails. I should really use this thing more. Jigsaw and angle grinder easily available to the side. I'm able to keep my things tucked away, displayed mostly in secret, and I'm about to bring my vision to life. There's just one final piece to this puzzle. It's been 7 years now since I said goodbye to my home state, my childhood bedroom, and moved to New York. I left behind the vast majority of my tools knowing that I simply wouldn't have anywhere to put them. Tools my dad gave me, my first socket set. I think I was 13 or 14 when he gave me this for my birthday. He told me he'd check back in a month to see how many pieces I'd lost. Still have them all today. And I know what you're thinking. This empty spot is for extra storage, so there's nothing missing there. When I got my first engineering job out of college, I bought myself a Kennedy toolbox. The same one my old man had at work, and he taught me everything I know about making stuff. It's got felt-lined drawers. Beautiful. Sadly, that had to stay behind at home too. For years I've been confined to this little red toolbox shoved in my closet. And guess who got me this thing when I left for college? The old man. It's always chock full of tools, and it even makes a brief appearance in laundry day. It's been a crucial companion for me in New York. But now that I've managed to carve out an ounce of space in Brooklyn, it's finally time to bring these tools to the place they belong. It is so nice to have these with me in Brooklyn. It kind of feels like a reunion of sorts. I kind of planned this whole closet / studio build around these two being the centerpiece. My only problem is that with the Kennedy sitting on top of the Craftsman, I don't have access to this top compartment without taking the Kennedy off every single time I want to get in there. So I'm thinking about building like a cubby that the Craftsman sits in, maybe with like a sliding drawer where I can pull it out, pop it open, grab whatever I need, and then just slide it back in. And the Kennedy lives on top of that and never has to move. So yeah, let's draw it up. All right, so we'll start with a simple plywood box. I've got a bunch of 3/4 inch plywood left over from the car camper build, and that'll work perfectly for this. We can use that for the panel that the Craftsman will sit on too. And let's add a handle to that so it's easy to pull in and out. The panel will slide between a set of rails on each side of the cubby. Now that I see it, I kind of want to chop a bit off the front That way I don't have to slide the Craftsman all the way out in order to get to the top compartment. I can just come part way out, pop it open, and then it will never have to come out of the rails. I'll just toss in some detail. We'll be using some countersunk flathead screws as always. And let's add a thin panel on the back that sticks up just a bit to keep the Kennedy from falling off the back. This should stiffen the whole assembly too. Alright, let's cut some wood. Now, normally at this point, I'd load up the car or call a ride to the wood shop I rent time in. But my landlord is kind enough to let me set up a folding table in the basement of our building. It sure beats making a mess in my apartment, although I try to limit my time down here as it's not technically my space. I definitely missed the table saw at the wood shop too, but if you're careful enough with the jigsaw, it's fairly easy to cut straight lines, and it's not like I'm making furniture here, so it does the job. With all the panels cut, I want to add some handles. I've used this super aggressive boring bit a few times now, and I've learned that if you're drilling into plywood, you really have to clamp your workpiece between two sacrificial boards. Otherwise, the plywood veneer on the edges of the hole just get completely destroyed by this bit. Alright, with everything cut to size, now we can get sanding. It's definitely one of my least favorite parts of the process, but it makes a huge difference in the touch and feel and how you interact with the piece. It's always worth it to put the time in. Now for the fun part, let's get assembling and bring this thing to life. As always, we'll start with a bit of countersinking. If you're new around here, I draw a lot of inspiration from Tom Sachs and build most of my designs in this style with exposed plywood edges. It celebrates the material for what it is. It's utilitarian and it's a beautiful wooden sandwich. Getting the spacing right on these rails was pretty straightforward. I wanted it to be a tight-ish slip fit. I don't really plan on fully removing this sliding panel from the cubby once it's in there, so there shouldn't be too much slop or the toolbox will tilt forward when it's slid out. Did the same thing to the other side, and that's the rails done. Alright, now just a quick pre-drill on the top and bottom panels, and we can throw this thing in some clamps and fasten it up. I just upgraded to these quick clamps, and they are already making a world of difference. If you've seen the car camper build or my coffee grinder silencer, you're familiar with this process. I'm just pre-drilling the cross section of the plywood so it doesn't split when I drive in the screw. And that's it. I just want to test the fit of this drawer. It's a little loose side to side, but I'm not too worried about it. Oh, I forgot about the back panel. Let me just cut that really quick and fasten it to the back. And now it's time for the final step, which is finishing the wood. For Julia's sake, because she hates the smell of tung oil, I'm using linseed oil this time, especially because this thing is going to live in my closet and I don't want my clothes to reek of tung oil. We'll give this a day to be dry to the touch, and then I want some rubber feet on the bottom so it's not sliding around when I pull out the drawer panel. I think it's time to see how this thing fits in the mini studio. Perfect. And just like that, it feels like I've carved out a little maker studio for myself in the city. It may not be on par with the professionals, but it's mine. Like any workspace, this place will evolve over time as my needs change. It already has changed so much in the 3 years we've been here, but for where I'm at right now in life, it's perfect. It's got everything I need. And I think if you're a maker who, like me, wants a standalone studio, wants a little bit more space, I would encourage you to look around at the space that you do have and sort of embrace it. Embrace the limitations that you think are around your area and sort of lean into them, because in the end, I think a lot of times limitations, constraints lead to innovation and good ideas. Okay, I think that's a good place to end this one. If you're still here at the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you sticking around to the end, and I hope to see you again soon.